entitled Why America May, emphasize the word may, go to hell, speaks again to how powerful Martin's work and witness was. And I think as Americans, some of us have lost sight of that in the age and the era of Obama. And some of us have never really wanted to wrestle with who Martin King really was.
Finally, Tavis, something I learned from your documentary about the media at that time, aside from the, in the mainstream media, the universal condemnation of Dr. King's address, was that only, what was it, 10 minutes of this extended speech was actually filmed?
Yeah. It's a rare, first of all, it's rare for King to give a speech where he basically read the entire text. And he did that because they wanted to make sure, knowing that he was going to get in some trouble, they wanted to make sure that, and Taylor Branch in the special explains this in detail, the great King historian of that wonderful Pulitzer Prize-winning trilogy, America in the King Years. Taylor Branch lays out the fact that the reason why Dr. King ended up having his dear friend Dr. Vincent Harding, who you saw and heard in a clip here earlier, his friend Vincent Harding helps to write this Beyond Vietnam speech because they wanted to make sure that in advance newspapers across the country could get it so that King would not be misquoted, so he would not be misunderstood, so he'd not be demonized by the media. Of course, that's the exact opposite, as you just mentioned. The exact opposite happened. But the media comes after him again because they didn't like what he had to say. But it was darn near universal. But the point was, again, to get it out early enough so that he would not be misquoted, misunderstood, and yet that happens anyway. So it's fascinating how the media at that time didn't want to wrestle with the speech. And again, the media had been slow to understand and to accept what he was up to in terms of his motives and his reasons for being so central to the civil rights movement. They were slow to get that. But when it came to talking about foreign policy, they said to him very clearly, brother, you are out of your lane. You have no business discussing foreign policy. You are a civil rights leader. Stay over there. We have not given you permission to be addressing these issues. So it was a serious smackdown for Dr. King. And Taylor Branch points out Wednesday night in the special that this kind of pushback, Amy, was so intense that on more than one occasion, it literally brought Dr. King to tears. He was troubled by this. He didn't stop fighting, didn't change his point of view, but it really emotionally broke him down. We talked about that as well.
And tonight on C-SPAN, they're going to be playing the event that you did, the gathering at Chicago last week, a gathering of black leadership. The level of criticism you feel, Tavis Smiley, is acceptable of President Obama in the black community right now, among the black leadership?
Yeah. It's a good question, Amy. Let me tweak it if I might. It's not so much about a level of criticism as much as it is holding him accountable to doing those things that he said he would do, number one. And he's done some of those things, to be sure. But I've said many times in our conversations that I don't think great presidents are born. Great presidents are made. If he's going to become a transformational president, the progressive community, and I think that includes black folk by and large, is going to have to help push him, to help usher him into his greatness. I believe there's honor in accountability. And so it starts not just with this notion of criticizing or critiquing him, but number one, holding him accountable to what he said he was going to do. Number two, recognizing that the black constituency is the most loyal constituency in his entire base. Recognizing, number three, that while most Americans are being challenged and being find themselves between a rock and a hard place, as it were, because of this economy, the numbers are clear. Black folk in America are getting crushed. And when there are certain black leaders, as there have been over the last month or two, who suggest trying to give the president some cover, sort of walking on eggshells, but suggesting publicly in the media that he doesn't have to have a black agenda, that he need not uniquely address the concerns of black folk, I said, wait a minute, we need to have a come to Jesus meeting about this, because there are some of us who believe that disproportionate pain requires a disproportionate response. And so a large group of African-American thought leaders, opinion makers, policy makers, influencers met us around literally around a big round table at Chicago State just a week or so ago. Thousands of people packed into the auditorium at Chicago State for a conversation about how it is that we fashion and form and hold the president accountable to an African-American agenda in this era of Obama, in this so-called post-racial America. And that
PBS host Tavis Smiley. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, C-SPAN will air his We Count the Black Agenda is the American Agenda, the gathering of black leadership he recently hosted in Chicago. On Wednesday night, PBS will air Tavis Smiley's special, MLK, A Call to Conscience. This is Democracy Now! Back in a minute.